Out of with tennis, I think just a couple days back was a big match. We had Djokovic versus Nadal, a match between both of them. I think it's been a while since both of them have had a match, especially in the Grand Slam, and it was in the quarterfinals. So it wasn't in like the finals of the French Open. It was in the quarterfinals. There was a lot that people were expecting. Nadal has just come back from an injury, but again he's on the clay court, so that's the area that he dominates. And Djokovic is playing his first Grand Slam this year after the controversy that happened in the Australian Open with his entire visa and immigration issue in Australia. Nadal comes out to win. I think he won the match in 4 sets, and it was a fantastic performance from him. But yeah, Mazhar, what do you think about the French Open? And specifically, let's talk about this match, and then we can talk about some other players.
So, Shubham, firstly, I think everyone knows this. Whoever knows me knows that I'm a massive Rafa fan. Always have been since day one. Rafa's been my go-to player. I always like to support the underdog. So even
So,
before
so
Nadal,
sorry to cut you in, but are you saying that you're a Rafa fan first and then Federer fan? Is Rafa your number one?
yeah,
All-time number one?
yeah, Rafa's my
Okay.
number one.
Okay.
Been my all-time number one, and there's a reason for that as well, because I used to support Andy Roddick, and Federer used to just maul him every time. So I never could get myself to support Federer. I respect him, and I love how, and according to me, he is the greatest of all time. That's subjective again.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, in terms of what he did to tennis, the domination he created, and the fact that Nadal had to cater his game to beat Federer speaks volumes of Rafa's greatness as well. So it depends on where you stand in terms of history, because Federer broke a dominance of Sampras and Agassi and broke into the space, and then Rafa did the same to Federer, and then Djokovic has almost done the same to Rafa and Fed, but then they just recently, not so much recently Federer, but Rafa was still finding a way to win Grand Slams thanks to the French Open, of course. But so, like, I remember we were at uni when the game was going on, and everyone was like, oh, I don't think Djokovic will win. Sorry, I don't think Rafa will win. I think Djokovic will take it. So one guy was going into scientific rubbish saying that, oh, bro, in the night time, the ball will go slower and that doesn't suit Rafa's game and all this rubbish. And I was telling him that, like, don't you realize clay is the slowest court on the tour? So if at all, if it gets slower, it's going to benefit Rafa. And then I couldn't bother arguing, because he himself was a professional tennis player, but sometimes logic is flawed as well for some people. But 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 coming back to the main point, I thought Rafa had a terrific game. Honestly, I think Djokovic was Djokovic did well to take it to the fourth set. I honestly thought Rafa will win it in straight sets before the game. It's just the supreme confidence that I have in Rafa's ability on the clay court. But it's just sad that they had to play each other in the quarterfinals, and I don't understand how the seedings work, because I know Djokovic being seeded first is understandable, but Rafa being fifth, being the Grand Slam champion, and given his legacy at Roland Garros, didn't make sense to me. And also, if you have first versus fifth in the quarters, how does that add up, right, in terms of the way they create the draw? So I was quite disappointed in that, because it was kind of anticlimactic. Now it's like, now the only way, according to me, Rafa loses is if he has a blunder or has a bad day. And that's pretty much it. Even if he has a bad day, there's no guarantee he'll lose, because it's a 5-setter. So even if he goes 2 sets down, you never know, he can find his feet. So I think that's my only thing. Now it's Rafa against Rafa going into the final. I know the final will be played the next day, actually the same day when we release this episode. So it'll be interesting. But I think overall they've played 52 or 53 games.
I think head to head, Djokovic is ahead, no, still.
Yeah, head to head, Djokovic is ahead, but in terms of slams, I think it's 11-7 or something like that, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
And in terms of finals, I think again it's Djokovic ahead in terms of finals. So since this wasn't a final, again Rafa's extended his record. But it's crazy, man, to think about two guys. It like people don't play so much against each other over their entire like I mean for not players, but like altogether, some players don't even play 52 games.
Hmm.
These guys have played 52 games against each other, 52, 53, whatever. It's absurd. And I think the legacy will always live on. But if Rafa wins this open and goes two up, of course, I would love to see Federer in Wimbledon. Hopefully, we get to see them live. Uh, Again, that's hoping against hope in a lot of ways, but like it'll be absolutely enthralling going into that with Rafa being two ahead of Djokovic and Federer, and then there'll be pressure on Djokovic as well because then he knows that he has to win this because then it's one more year going by and even Djokovic is not going to get any younger. Yes, he has 2 years more over Rafa, but I think that's why this game was significant purely for the legacy that Rafa can also still extend. And I mean, 14 Roland Garros, it'll be then. That's
It's insane. I I feel like one thing that you touched upon is with Rafa, even like that guy's mentality is such a like warrior spirit and like such a warrior mentality. Even if you look at this year's Australian Open against, I think it was Medvedev, he was 2 sets down and then he came back to win 3-2. Even in this game again in the French Open, I don't know if it was the third or fourth set, he was already broken, he was down, and then he came back to win tiebreak. Yeah, I think it was the fourth set. He came back, and that too, this is up against a guy like Djokovic, who's defensively amazing, extremely agile, extremely physical, and also is a very like has a warrior mentality. So it just goes to show that Rafa is right now at an unbelievable level. And I personally just feel like I don't know what it might be because of the fact that it was Djokovic's first slam after a long time, but he didn't look like the Djokovic we've seen in the last 2-3 years. So I definitely think like he's not hit his peak yet, and hopefully we'll get to see his peak in the Wimbledon. But I love the fact that you touch upon the point that you touched upon. If Rafa wins the French Open, which most likely he will, he goes two up. Then it like I don't see Federer really win 22 given his injuries and given the fact he's 40. But for Djokovic, and this is just something I feel I might be wrong. I feel if, for example, if Nadal ends his career with 22 slams and even Djokovic gets 22 slams, no one will consider Djokovic in the same category as these guys. Djokovic has to win at least one or two slams more than whoever finishes with the highest for him to be considered as one of the greatest. Because I don't know, there's just something about Nadal and Federer which surpasses their title, surpasses the amount of Grand Slams they win as compared to Djokovic. But yeah, huge credit to Nadal. I think he is having a fantastic season. If he wins French Open, it is 2 out of 2 slams in 2022. And yeah, it's just going to be amazing.